Hey everyone, Stephanie Lucrezio coming to you live for our first ever Brio TV show. So excited to be here with Kevin Jenkins and Theo Wilson. We're going to wait a couple of moments for people to pop on. So as you come on the broadcast, if you can just say hi, pop a comment and let us know that you hear us. We're so excited to be here tonight to talk to you about contact tracing and just give you some real talk, the real deal on what it is and what it means for us in the United States and all around the world. So as you're popping in, hi, so good to see you. Hi, everybody. So I'm here with Kevin Jenkins. He is the director of the Urban Global Health Alliance. He is one fantastic human being. I've had the pleasure and the honor of having some amazing conversations. He is my spirit animal, and I'm so happy to be doing the show with him because we are one and the same when it comes to our feelings and our passion about health, freedom, medical freedom, religious freedom, all of it. So I wanted to give him the opportunity to say hello and introduce our guest.
Hello, everyone. I hope you had a great nice day out there. There was a lot of sun out there today, so I hope you got some sun. But I want to introduce Theo Wilson. I'm just going to give you a short story about him and then go into a little bit of his bio. I met Theo in Colorado several months ago, and we started chatting up about, what was happening in our communities around the country, his whole deeper understanding of what was happening as it relates to our health and the disparities of our health in our community. And I read a special article that he did. He did an opinion piece in the Colorado Sun. And I got to tell you, it was absolutely brilliant. He absolutely caught all of the things that we were trying to talk about in Colorado at the time that I was there, while we were talking to our legislators there in Colorado about the mandated bills that were being put up to take the rights of families and children to protect their kids from the tyranny of, I would call, the big pharma industry. And he came out and he was out there by himself having that conversation with those women. And I thought that was a powerful thing that he had accomplished and he did for all of us across the country. Of course, he's a poet if you watched him on TED Talks. But if you watched him on TED Talks, he has a very deep understanding of what the world is about, where we are at this present moment, and putting it in proper context. Obviously, he's a brilliant journalist. I think he's a fantastic journalist, and I'm very proud to have him on the show today. I would call him a national activist as opposed to an activist, because he speaks for all of us across the world, and I really thank him for that. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
That was a hell of an introduction, Kev.
I do talk about you all the time, man.
I'm humble, brother. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you very much.
Proud of you too, both of y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's get into some contact tracing, because I've been reading all day and I thought I was disturbed before, but the more I read about it, the more disturbed I actually am. So I want to just give everybody a little bit of a context here. There is a bill right now. It's HR 6666. And for those of you that know the meaning of 666, we all know what that represents. So this bill is the COVID-19 Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone, the TRACE Act. And this bill will authorize Health and Human Services Department to give out $100 billion for the fiscal year 2020 alone to eligible entities to conduct diagnostic testing for COVID-19 and its related activities, such as contact tracing through mobile health units, and as necessary at individuals' residence and other purposes, which is the part that really sparks my other purposes. Like, what exactly are those other purposes? So let's get into this and talk about the implications of this bill and what it means to be traced, tracked, and basically marked every move that we make. What are your thoughts initially when you hear about this bill?
Well, we'll let Theo go, and we'll be guided by what he's talking about. You want to go first, Theo, or do you want the old man to go first? Let's just put this in context for a moment, because I think when people hear contact tracing, we all have to understand that it's been around for many years. And it was about having the patient and doctor experience. So actually, if you had a sexual disease, I'm going to try to drill it down as simple as possible. If you had a sexual disease, the doctors would ask you, who did you have contact with? And then they would start to trace those people so they can get people proper care. Obviously, that's not what this is. Obviously, what contact tracing is right now is about ripping our constitutional rights away, exposing our medical records to big pharma and big tech. And it's going to cause a real problem for all of us, because what they're planning to do is hire people all around this country to come into our homes, to basically check our temperatures, to see if we are sick. And for those people with no experience in this field, no healthcare professionals, not anyone that understands, I'm having a simple flu doesn't mean I need to be taken out of my home, but they're going to start taking us out of our homes. They're going to start to flag us, so we won't be able to travel. We won't be able to get our license. As a matter of fact, I read something in California yesterday that is horrifying, that if you don't engage in contact tracing or either take a vaccine that they're going to give to you, they're now going to stop your health, your benefits.
It's crazy.
They're going to stop your welfare. They're going to stop everything. They're going to stop your kid from going to school. Now, normally contact tracing works at the beginning of a pandemic. I think all of us know now, all of us have corona, right? I mean, if you really want to drill down on it, we have so many viruses in our body, we probably have corona. So at the end of the day, they're going to be making those decisions, and they're going to be taking our families and then causing, think about this for a second. You're at home, you're sick, they knock on your door, and they ask your family, if you are sick, they have to take you out of that house. That's the real drill down. Is it unconstitutional? Yes. Is it fearful? Yes. But the whole goal is, why are they doing it? Now, think about it. Your doctor would normally have this information, and you would normally have that conversation. And guess what? It's been around for many, many years. We weren't afraid of it because it was about protecting our HIPAA laws. It was protecting our right to have our health records private. But what's going to happen now, you're going to have Google, you're going to have Microsoft, you're going to have all of these tech companies now controlling our information.
So our phone almost becomes like an ankle bracelet to track our every move.
I want to get to that in a second, but just think about that for a second. We no longer will have our constitutional rights. We will no longer have the ability to protect our health and the information regarding our health. But now they're going to be able to come into our homes, right, and take us out and put us in a place where they're saying we're going to get better, and then flag us for the rest of our lives. That's really the horror of it. But as a black man, I see it completely different. I understand when public policy is created to control one's body, to control one's space, to control when you're moving, where you live, where you eat. That's what redlining is. That's exactly what redlining is, but at a smaller scale. But they're going to be able to redline us now based on all of our medical information. Now, what if we have a crazy elected official, a crazy person starving for power, someone that wants to play God? Now they can manipulate that, and they can trap you in a space for the rest of your life, because some of us are not paying attention because we're getting too technical. They are going to take life away from you. They are going to take your children away from you. They are now going to control your health record. And big tech is going to be able to drive every decision that you make. Just like in China now. You know what they're doing now?
Oh, yeah.
They're giving you credit. They're giving you credit. So American credits, meaning that if you are subscribing to what they think you should do as it relates to your health, or what you say, they'll give you a credit so you can move around in certain provinces or move around in China. Now, and if not, you are trapped in China. Now you can't move out of your block. You can't move out of your house. And they now can come and take you out of your house.
Well, let's talk about China for a second, because in the article that you sent me, it says that all residents in China are required to have this app on their phone that either shows green, yellow, or red. So when you're green, you're good to go. You can interact with your regular social life, go to places. When you're yellow, you're not allowed to go outside. And when you're red, it's actually enforced with police that you must stay inside your home. And Canada also did something to launch a contact tracing app on people's phones as well. They made it optional right now, but they're seeing that a lot of people aren't downloading it, because I don't think people are too excited about having Big Brother track our every move. I muted you, Kevin, because you have some interference with your headset. I don't know what's happening, but I hear crackling a lot. So I just.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yeah.
I'll fix that. You go to Theo. I'll fix it. Go ahead.
Okay. So Theo, talk to me a little bit about, your reaction to some of the things that we're talking about. I mean, basically our phones become like ankle bracelets that track our every move.
Mm-hmm.
You're red, you're yellow, you're green, you're able to function in society, you're not. You can drive a car, you can get your license. What does this bring up for you?
It brings up to me the concept of whatever is used for benevolent purposes one day could be used for malevolent purposes the next. You don't want the architecture in place at all. You don't want any mechanisms that could possibly infringe on your freedoms, because this is a democracy and we elect and unelect people all the time. And you never know who's going to get into that place and use those very tools against the people who voted them in the first place. I think that one of the biggest weaknesses of America is our educational system around history. So you see, here's the problem. I'm a historian. My father is a historian. I've been tracking these patterns for a long time. I had a quiet fascination about the mechanisms of dictatorship. And if you look at the means by which Stalin took power, Mao Zedong and Adolf Hitler, the things they did was called a state of emergency, convinced the people that it was necessary. And then when they put the government tractor this far many feet into our freedoms, it could not be backed up. Once you put these mechanisms in place, you can't retract them. It's not easy to do. And we have a technology that would have gave them, they would have dreamed about this stuff. You see what I'm saying? They would have dreamed about what you could do with Facebook Messenger and what you could do with every Google app, YouTube, tracking bit of cookies that are in your computer, the echo chambers. And you need only look at the data breach with Cambridge Analytica to know your stuff isn't safe. As long as the profit motive is there, and as long as the means and motivation to control people is there, you as a citizen must take it upon yourself to say, actually, no, I don't consent to this. And we have to do it as a group. Because if the group ain't there, they get to take the power. And the group sometimes forget that they are the power. And that's my job, to remind the people, you're the power. They don't get to do this without you, so don't let them do it.
So the interesting thing about what you just said is that we are being trained by the fake news to believe that by resisting to wearing the mask, by not wanting to be contact traced, that somehow we are a problem and we are selfish human beings who aren't looking for the greater good and the protection of humanity for this COVID that's going to kill us all. How do you respond to that?
I say, look at the data that they gave you. I have a video out now called Contact Tracing, and it's asking about the surveillance aspect of this, right? And when I did that video, I put in the science that we know. We know, especially if you live in the East Coast. If y'all live anywhere near New York, which y'all New Jersey people do, you know that that's one of the epicenters. They just told you that at least 1/5 of New Yorkers in New York City already got the disease. That's over 3 million people. If Cuomo called for 17,000 people, that ain't enough to contact trace everybody there. So why even make that move to do so? Here's one of the things that's so startling about this. Everybody's unemployed right now. Nobody's got money. Everybody's desperate. Rent is still due. So what's going on? It's almost like real convenient that everybody's means of income was taken away, and suddenly the only jobs is with contact tracing.
Yeah.
We have a right to observe that pattern there. The point is, the cat's already out of the bag. And as Cuomo said in the interview back in April, the horse is already out of the barn. They thought there was only a handful of cases in New York City by March 1st, 2020. Then Northeastern University did a serology study where they tracked these planes coming in, not from China, but from Italy. They said it was the Italy planes that came in. 10,700 New Yorkers already had it on March 1st. And it's been spreading like wildfire. It's out. So don't let them try to tell you that you can actually contain it, because the myth of containment is what we're up against. As long as the masses believe in the myth of containment, they'll look at you as a threat when you don't have a mask on. They'll look at you as a threat when you don't want to be contact traced. But when you dispel the myth of containment, you then dispel the means by which they'll try to contain.
Yeah. And you,
Absolutely.
before the show, you compared this to some other times in history where, you know, this was supposed to be for your protection.
They always do that. They always do that. And we don't know that when this was done, the German society, let's just look at it. I'm sorry, because people don't want to make these comparisons. And I'm like,
please do, because I think it's so important.
Either I hurt your feelings now or they hurt your life later. So let me hurt your feelings now. All right. What we're talking about is there was always a state of emergency. When the Reichstag burned, they declared a state of emergency. That was their parliament building, right? This is the same thing, except you have an invisible enemy now. Back then, the National Socialist was against the communists. Now the enemy is a virus. It's everywhere. And since it's everywhere, that means that everyone is supposedly socially responsible to do this, to try to contain it. But the CDC knew. See, this is the thing. You got to read the CDC site. The CDC knew that it was beyond containment as early as mid-February. Whatever should have happened in the administration didn't happen. You can point the fingers on election day. I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about right now, they knew that it was beyond containment in February. So how come the push wasn't toward boosting your immune system? How come the push wasn't toward natural pathways? This is what's going on. So the reason why that's not the push is because there's no control if everybody's eating vegetables and taking vitamin C pills. There is control if everybody's social distancing. There is control if everybody's got to wear masks. And they use the culture. Another similarity with Nazi Germany, hate to say it. Mm-hmm. But Hitler used the populace to control one another. It wasn't that they were afraid of Hitler. They used the people in the population to control everybody else in the population, because people are social creatures and we don't like to stand out. We don't want to feel like we're going against the grain. A lot of us haven't trained that strength in us to push back against a mass of people. And you got to get it. You got to get it or else. And that's why I say, look at history, see it repeat itself. It is a vast reservoir of patterns, and they playing out again, unfortunately.
I love it.
Well, you know, Theo, you're absolutely correct. I mean, but remember, since you're talking about Nazi Germany in the context, remember there was the pandemic then. There was an influenza pandemic at that time. So it's really interesting how you're connecting historically what happened then and what's happening now. But basically, they're still using this. They're still using the same tactics. It's nothing new that they're doing. But what's different now is that at least we understand that to be American or to be someone that's an immigrant coming into this country, majority of the people that came into this country outside of the African American was coming here, to leave tyranny, to get away from what was happening in Europe, to live in a country where you will be able to speak your mind, live in your own space, be able to be free. Not anymore. What they're doing is they're taking that away every day. But think about this. 8 weeks have gone by. They have done this in 8 weeks. In 8 weeks. So you know what the next 30 days is going to happen. So they told you that there was this virus that was like going to kill 2 million people, but it's down to 60,000, the same number last year. Now they're saying that, hey, you know what? When white people go out and other people go out to march for their constitutional rights and for their medical freedom and for their religious rights, you know what they're saying? Oh, those are bad people and they need to be taken off. They need to be taken off the football field. But we're not the bad people. What we're attempting to do is educate you. Now, all of a sudden, 3 weeks ago, we were talking about contact tracing. And now they're saying, oh, it's community contact tracing. Oh, that's the con job. It's community. Oh, we're going to have people come knock on your door just to check on you. Oh, and by the way, if you live in public housing, we're going to swab your mouth for a test that's inconclusive anyway. It's not. We don't even know if it works. Right. We don't even know if it works. But what they're doing, they're getting out information, and they're going to take that information and they're going to use it against us, and then they're going to isolate us further from society. I'm not talking about just Black people. I'm talking about white people,
everybody.
Latino people,
for everybody.
People. Listen, we have allowed non-professionals, people that are not scientists. Now, we got some crazy scientists, but we have some smart scientists. 120 virologists all around the world is telling us we didn't have to do this. Herd immunity was pitch perfect for us. It's been done before. Well, we had H1N1. We didn't close down. We had SARS. We didn't close down. We had HIV. We didn't close down. I can go on and on and on. So why this particular virus was so important? Because they wanted to hatch their plan. Fauci said in 2017, by the way, when Trump wins, I'm just using Trump as a point of reference, we're going to have a pandemic. Something bad is going to happen.
It's going to happen.
It's like he was psychic.
So now we're trying to explain to all of our local friends and people around the country what contact tracing is, right? Yeah. We understand what the old contact tracing is, but now
let's talk about that though, because we understand it, but I don't think that some of the viewers understand it. So Kevin, let's talk about old contact tracing in the time of HIV and AIDS, how things were traced, what was happening then versus what's about to go down.
Well, since the 18th century, I mean, I would say the 18th century, contact tracing was quite simple. If I had sex with you, right, it was a transmitted disease. I'm going to give that kind of example. It was a transmitted disease. You would tell your doctor, I had sex with these 5 partners, and then they would track those partners. They would go and call each partner and say, listen, you have a problem, right? So it was a doctor-patient relationship, not a big tech, big government, big pharma relationship. Now that's what think about it. I would go to my doctor and I would say, you know what? I got a little ill here. You know, maybe you can help me. They say, okay, who did you come in contact with? Now, my health records are in his hand because he took an oath, right? Now that's not going to be the case. Now they're going to hire people. They're going to come into your house. They're going to ask you questions. They're going to flag you. I mean, it's real. I mean, I want to keep this simple. I don't want to complicate this. So in the 18th century up to now, contact tracing has been used pretty well, but not anymore. So now we have to be prepared for that because in 8 weeks, what did they do? They locked us in. 8 weeks, what did they do? They destroyed our national economy. 8 weeks, what did they do? They now have us dependent on government when in fact we should be running away from government. We should not trust anybody in government right now. But let me tell you the thing that is fascinating to me. I want everybody to know the group that's pushing all of this more than anybody on the planet from a political perspective. And I'm a Democrat. It is the Democrats in this country that are doing it.
Thank you for saying that.
I got to say it, and it hurts me.
I got to tell you, every state that I have been fighting these mandated vaccine bills have been pushed by Democrats. This surveillance program pushed by Democrats. The shut-in laws. Because of these laws that are being done by the governors, these emergency laws, the majority of them are Democrats. Now think about this. This is not the Democrats of Lincoln. This is not the Democrats of John F. Kennedy. These Democrats are only focused on themselves, enriching themselves, and in transferring wealth to the super elite in this country. So tracing us, cutting us off from working, cutting us off from our families and friends, it is all designed to wipe us out. We're on a short window here. And I keep telling you, Stephanie, we have 30 days.
Yeah, you've said that. And I think that one thing
I want everybody to understand that. 30 days.
Yeah.
Stephanie. And I got to tell you, Theo, and you know this better than anyone. Think about a young black male, because you've been talking to me about this for the last couple of weeks. A young black male trying to get a job, trying to live his life. He gets sick, he gets the flu. Someone walks into his house and said, well, you can't leave your house. Oh, by the way, you can't fly. Oh, by the way, you can't get licensed. Oh, by the way, you can't be with your family. Oh, by the way, you can't go see your grandmother and your mother. Now, we've had super pandemics. I mean, if you think about it, we're at 0.1%, maybe 0.2%. If you look at SARS, if you look at H1N1, those they were at least at 4 to 5, maybe 6, maybe. So think about it. They took this virus and turned it into a marketing campaign to wipe us out. Now, Democrats are running all around this country talking about this is the party that's going to help us. No, this is the party that's helping the super rich. This is the party that's trapping us in our community.
Let me just piggyback on that because this was the most painful thing, right? I'm a registered Democrat, bro. I'm an old Bernie bro, man. Bernie was my man. So that's actually a little bit different because there's corporate Democrats and then there's progressives. I ain't gonna get into all that. But the group that I'm in has more in common with some conservative overlap than I thought. The group that I'm in had more in common, especially around vaccines and especially around COVID-19. And how this plays in culturally is this. We got trauma and then we got patterns. This is the problem. Now, we just had an article release. Now, this is the liberal media that would tell you this. The liberal media told on themselves. They said in New York City, 85 to 90% of those who were contacted by the police for social distancing violations for Black and Latino. This is what's the problem, because culturally speaking, Blacks and Latinos right now in general, this is as a whole, this is in general, this is a broad swath, I'm painting with broad strokes here, are in favor of the social distancing of shelter in place. And I'm trying to tell my peoples right now, listen, you are enabling a surveillance state when you do that. They cannot do that without the popular will. And the liberals are looking to the Black, Latino, and queer communities to figure out their moral compass. So if the Black communities is down with social distancing, with social in place, the liberals are actually following that lead. And I'm like, yo, the hood, listen up, bro. Because what's not talked about is that the people who want to reopen the economy, the people who have out there fighting the right to work are not, the people who want it are not just Republican gun owners. I'm sorry, they're not. The people who need it the most look like me. I do activism in a very, very poor section of Denver. It's mostly Black and Latino out there. And guess who I work with? Barbers and beauticians. We hold community forums in barbers and beauty shops. Guess what? They're not essential workers, but these guys are ex-felons, a lot of them. Having a barber shop was the only way that they got legit work. So if the economy is closed down, they're going to slip back into the freaking gangster mentality, back into the dope boy mentality. I don't need that. So even from the poorest among my community, even though it's espoused the way we say it, we need the economy to stay closed. But the fact is, we need it to open. The poorest among us, the most vulnerable among us needed to open. And I happen to be literally the only one with the voice that said that. Everybody else just fell into the freaking Van Jones party line. And it sucks that it is Democrats pushing it. And we got to stop it. We got to stop it.
Oh, yeah, I actually, but let's just think about this for a second.
Bro.
And I'm glad we started our conversations in this show on contact tracing. And I know we're going to be doing more. And I know both of you are going to be doing your own shows. I hope you invite me on. But just let me just understand this. Let me just think about this for a second. Bobby Rush out of Chicago,
Right.
former Black Panther, pushes this bill. Rush introduces a bipartisan legislation to fund $100 billion coronavirus testing and contact tracing effort. $100 billion. Mm-hmm. So with this $100 billion, they're going to come down into the community where you're already starving, literally. You already don't have economic opportunity, literally. And they're going to call up these churches and these nonprofits that are starving, literally. And they're going to say, guess what? We want to give you some money. And we want you to go into your community. And we want to take the despair that's in those communities. And what we want to do is we want to manipulate them. And we want to use you to front for us while we get all of your information, just like YouTube is doing now by censoring us, just like Facebook is censoring us, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what we're going to do is censor your community, because we're going to say you now cannot move out of your community, because just last week, if you just remember this, the Black community across this country brought this narrative that they were dying more than anyone else based on the coronavirus, this virus. I was stunned by that, because you know what that said? That said, wait a minute, we're not healthy. Guess what? They can come in here and do whatever they want to do to this community. And by the way, now we're the face of COVID. Now, another horror on top of the mask we wear, another horror on top of the underemployment that the other horror based on the fact that we don't have access to the proper health care to make us healthier, or the therapeutics to keep us healthy, or the things that we need to build our immune system, because we're already under duress. So Bobby Rush, a Black American,
a Black
Panther
on
from
top
Chicago, pushes this bill. And the Democrats that were supposed to be there to actually vote no, they just didn't show up. And there was a small fight on the floor to try to push this back a minute, and it didn't happen. So Bobby Rush, a Black American. Now think about this, Theo. Think about this, Stephanie. What they're saying to me is that they're going to give them permission to come and take my life away from me, to take my children away from me. And what he's saying is, let me tell you what he's saying now. Oh, the bill doesn't really represent that. Well, guess what? I know what it represents. I can read. I've been in public policy all my life. I know what the intent of this bill is. This is the setup. This bill is the setup.
Knock it out the park.
Knock it out the park. So
and now, and Kevin, this is the thing. You know that when the police come into these communities, they come into these communities the way they've always come into these communities. They're not coming in there as helpers in that sense. They're coming in there as the jackboots that there's always been. And the fact that a Black Panther, these guys, a Black Panther, which used to fight against police injustice in the Black community, authorized more police. And see, we see this. Oh, okay, so Stephanie, before we got on, just showed me this video of this sister in the New York subway getting accosted. Why? Because she had a mask, it just wasn't on her mouth.
She was talking on the phone, so she took it down to talk on the phone.
So you had 6 grown men, police officers, throwing this woman around because she did not have a mask on.
And her child was there.
She had her
kid.
Let
me read a little bit of this because it's really interesting. Today, U.S. Representative Bobby L. Rush introduced H.R. 6666. We'll get to that later. The COVID-19 testing. Reaching and Contacting Everyone Trace Act. Reaching and Contacting Everyone Trace Act. This bipartisan bill, I think it was only one Republican.
So it's 58 Democrats and 1 Republican.
Okay. Well, there's, again, fake news. This bipartisan bill would establish a grant program run by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. Now, do we trust the CDC with any of our information? Hello, we can get back to that later. To fully mobilize coronavirus testing and contact tracing efforts. Fully mobilize coronavirus testing and contact tracing efforts. Grantees, here, you ready? Grantees would include community health centers, school-based health centers, tracking our children, community health centers. Listen, poor Black neighborhoods, poor Black Latino neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods. Now, that's where those health centers basically are, and in rural parts of the country also. We can get to that later. Academic medical centers, nonprofits, and other entities who would hire and train individuals to operate mobile testing units, as well as outreach in hotspots and medically underserved areas. Okay, guys, that's code. That's code. I know what that.
And let's just highlight for 1 second that on May 4th, I believe it was, Dr. Robert Levin from the Ventura County Public Health Department came out and basically said that we also realize that as we find more contacts, some of the people we find are going to have trouble being isolated. For instance, if they live in a home where there's only 1 bathroom and there are 3 or 4 other people living in that house, those people that have the COVID infection, we're not going to be able to keep that person in that home. So he's basically saying that depending on your living situation and what your amenities are in your home, if you come back positive with COVID-19, you may not be able to isolate in your home. So they're going to remove you and put you into what he calls safe kinds of housing. And then when there was outrage on Twitter, Facebook, all over the place, on the news, on the real news, he came back and said that we mistook his words. I'm reading it quote, like it's a quote. There is no mistaking those words.
You're saying the truth. Don't lie.
So you say it and then you want to back up off of it because the truth upsets too many people. So let me sugarcoat it for you and give it to you in little small digestible pieces so that we can continue to push forward. Kevin, the one thing I want to ask you while you were talking, people are asking about what happens in 30 days. So if you can...
Well, listen, this is what happens in 30 days. I just want you to picture what's happening in 8 weeks. So now contact tracing is right here at our door. Right here at our door. We're still trapped in our homes. So now what they're going to do, what happens after this is they're going to come back with another stimulus plan. And they're going to say, you know what? We're just going to give you another $1,000. Just staying a little longer. Right. And every day that goes by, our constitutional rights are going to be stripped away from us. Last night, right in Washington, what did they do? They passed a bill to allow the FBI, right, without a warrant, to go and go into your search engine and find out what you're doing without a warrant. That's phase 1. The bill that came out a couple of weeks ago in the stimulus bill, they spent, I think it's $100 billion or to $300 billion. I think it's $300 to $200 billion for a surveillance program. Why was that necessary in that bill? Why was that necessary? So what I'm saying to you, every day that we don't fight back, every day we don't come out of our houses, every day we don't go and open up our businesses that will not be here in another week or two, we'll be wiped out. Even if they give you money, they're going to take something away. So it took them 8 weeks. So imagine what the 30 days is. I'm saying 30 days because if we don't do something, we won't have anything left. And then they will censor you. They will censor me. They will censor Theo and all of the people that have been fighting for years and telling everybody that look what's happening to my child, look what's happening in my community. We won't have anything left. We're allowing these governors who we put in office, we're allowing these governments that we form to take our lives away from us. And I'm stunned by that. And for the Black community to be sitting back and saying, oh, I'm afraid to go out because they're going to die of COVID. Are you out of your mind?
What's wrong with you?
Not only that.
Wait, let me just say this here. But if I survive Jim Crow, okay? If I survive Jim Crow, I survive the civil rights movement, I survive every disease. The only virus we're suffering from now is silence. The only virus we're suffering from now is cowardice. We're cowards. We should be coming out now and pushing back. Even when I look at the churches in my community, they're shut down. Our moral voice has left the building. So in 30 days, if we don't get out of our houses, if we don't push back on contact tracing, if we don't start to ask more questions, if we don't start to organize our families and educate our family members and our kids and our daughters and our grandkids, they are now going to have our kids walking to schools with masks. They're going to now have our teachers acting as medical police. And guess what? And they don't have a problem with it because we're not saying anything.
And this is yo, Kev, let me just say this, man. I was disappointed. I mean, my whole understanding, I was like, how y'all gonna lock down Brooklyn dudes? You know what I'm saying? I know Brooklyn dudes. Y'all ain't gonna lock down Brooklyn. They locked y'all down.
Yeah.
I didn't know they could lock down the home of Notorious B.I.G., Old Dirty Bastard. I didn't know you could lock down the home of Wu-Tang Clan. You locked down the home of, like y'all fell for that? And I was like, oh, Casey, something else is going on. I didn't understand. And so here's what's leading to the complicit behavior in our community. The thing that happened was, so Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, gets on a live stream with all these experts, these brothers and sisters. You got Van Jones on there, specifically Van Jones. He's the major one, but there's a lot of medical professionals who are supposedly experts in this field. And everybody who had credibility in our community scared the hell out of us. That's what happened. It was just one live stream with P. Diddy. You can find it. And Van Jones specifically just started going in on about how we got to change this, we got to change that. We're not good enough here. We need to do this. And Van Jones got flack on Black Twitter with that. But the spell was cast that we were dying more. We are dying more. And what people didn't do was evolve their viewpoints with the science, because the science evolved on this. And when the science came out, the science says not only are they playing the correlation game while you're thinking causation, i.e., Burke said, everybody who is dying just happened to have COVID somewhere in their system. I don't care if you got knocked out in the street fight. I don't care if you got shot in the corner. I don't care.
The parachute didn't come off when you jumped out of the plane.
But you happen to have a COVID antibody when you died of COVID, right?
Yep.
So if there were already comorbid conditions that affected our folks more, whether it be heart disease, diabetes, all of these things that come with living lives of bad food, because you live in food deserts and poverty, which means you don't have access to the more expensive healthcare and all that stuff. All of these comorbid conditions, which already existed in the Black community, were the things that we were already going to the hospital for. And then people say, oh, yeah, but you might have COVID. And to the point where they said on the paperwork, you don't have to explicitly test for COVID-19. And this was the thing that made America unique among other Western nations, because other people didn't play it like this. They was like, you died of what you died of, like you're supposed to do. That's called science. You died of what you died of, all right? COVID might have been present, that's not what you died of. You died of this heart attack, right? You died of this kidney failure. But COVID was present, that's not what's on your death certificate, right? America didn't play it that way. So if Black Americans are already going in with other comorbid conditions, and then they're just being left to say, well, you died of COVID. This happened to a friend of mine. Her name is Lene Turner. Lene Turner said her grandfather literally was in hospice. We know he gonna die. The brother's in hospice. He's got a few weeks to live. Everybody knows him. No coughing, no chest congestion, but somehow COVID was in the picture and they fought the coroner. And I tried to put it on the local news. Listen, this was an appropriation. They're literally appropriating the comorbid conditions. And this is what's happening. You're not dying more of COVID-19. In fact, everybody who's got it just got it. COVID, what they're finding is highly infectious, very, very survivable. Very, very survivable. So
Absolutely.
Everybody in the got COVID. I got COVID. You got COVID. The American people got COVID. It is what it is. But you're not dying from it. And those who are dying from it were already suffering from. Literally, Italy said 99% of the people who died in Italy had other deadly conditions. And they broke the numbers back down, and it was like a fifth of them who actually died of COVID-19. And they have an older population with 34% more smokers in their population per capita than us. That's right. Death rate like that. But if the politics doesn't evolve with the science, well, then you're just left with this effed up narrative.
The science, the problem is that they predicted the biggest blizzard of all time. Like, we were supposed to get 60 feet of snow, and this was going to be like the worst thing ever. Go pile up on the salt, get your groceries, like be able to shelter in for 6 weeks because this is going to be a real mother. And then we don't get any snow.
Right.
So it's like a dusting. And the truth is that there needs to be padding of numbers in order to justify what is happening and to continue to instill fear. Right. And, the thing that bothers me the most is tracking, tracing, all these things that they're putting into place. It doesn't solve the problem of teaching our society how to properly care for their health. We spend more money per capita on pharmaceuticals than any other industrialized nation anywhere on the planet. And when you look at the overall health of our humans in this country, we are not in a good place. So obviously something that we're doing is very broken. But the problem is that there's so much collusion and cross-pollination between these pharmaceutical companies and these big industry giants and our government that we no longer have a government that works for us, the people. They work for the profits of these bigger industries, and that's what matters.
I gotta piggyback on this. This has to be made clear because this is what's really going on. We live in what's called an inverted totalitarianism. It's a corporate totalitarianism. It's not behind a charismatic dictator. This is not Mussolini. This is not that. What you have is the fascism, which is a bundle, literally a bundle of sticks. The bundle is the corporations bundled together with the government. This is what's going on. So what's happening in this situation is that you have this revolving door between government and corporations. And when you have removed the barriers to stop money from being free speech, now, today it's the Democrats. Tomorrow it will be the Republicans. This has to be said. Today, it's the left wing that's messing up this conflict. But tomorrow, it will be the right wing until this is taken out, until this thing is uprooted. It's an averted totalitarianism, corporate fascism. And this corporate fascism pays for speech. And when these people can pad the freaking retirement accounts of the people that we elect. I mean, you got folks like Alec, the writing legislation. We've seen this with the prison industrial complex when we've had privatizations of prisons where you have to meet a quota of bodies in the bed, which changes the level of laws that are actually enacted by local politicians, you name it. So these are the things that people have to take a look at. It's the corporate system. And right now, medicine has got the Democrats in their pockets. And they're doing everything that they can. And this has to be said. And if you don't have elected officials that you can hold accountable, say, don't you dare take none of that corporate money, you got to get somebody else in there who won't take that money. That's how you do it.
And the truth is, you're right, Theo. Right now we have a problem with, and I want to clarify that we're not talking about all Democrats. All of us on this call are big fans of Jamel Holly. He is a local hero here in New Jersey, and we're so thankful for what he's doing and many other brave Democrats across this country.
But you know, Stephanie, individually, we do have some good Democrats.
Yes, but overall, we're screwed.
Yeah, but let's, because I go through that a lot. People say that, oh, well, Kevin, not everybody. I'm not saying there's some great Democrats. Yeah. Jamel Holly, great Democrat. I mean, we can name a bunch of them, right, across the country. Not a lot, but at the end of the day, but as a group, this is what they're doing to us right now. And 100%. We just need to understand that. So that's why I don't get into the conversation. I'm not really involved in, the whole dogma thing, partisan dogma. That's been impacting our community right now or this nation. But here's the deal. Contact tracing is the third step. And so there's other steps to come after that. And I think we need to get prepared for that. And I think having this show and having Theo come and have that and have his perspective, I think is a very good thing. But right now, tomorrow, there's a tomorrow, right? When we get up tomorrow morning, we have to do our due diligence. We have to start asking more questions. We have to do some more homework. We have to push back about what they're getting ready to do to our kids in the public schools across this country. We have to talk about how we get back to church. We have to talk about how we can get out. Now, think about this. We have governors telling us we can't leave our house. Think about this.
Mm-hmm.
We have guys that shouldn't be elected. I won't say what I really want to say, but they shouldn't be elected any longer. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to.
Right.
But we have elected officials that shouldn't represent us in any space. Now we know who they are. We should not be wasting any time to send a message to them the next couple of days that you have to go. Either you have a bigger conversation about our constitutional rights, about our medical rights, about our religious freedoms, about, what this world is going to look like and how we're going to move through this moment in history, or you have to go. I think we spend too much time getting permission from them. I'm always fascinated when I hear people say, oh, we can go to the parks now. Oh, we can come out of our houses now. I mean, I never thought that I would hear that nonsense. I never thought it. And listen, I told somebody today that was smoking a cigarette when I was jogging and had a mask on. And she said, hi, Kevin, how are you? I said, well, I didn't recognize you with the mask on. I said, well, why are you wearing it? She says, oh, Kevin, because they told me to wear it. I said, don't you realize it's hurting you? Don't you realize it's lowering your immune system? Don't you realize you're creating carbon monoxide and pushing it back into your body? Don't you understand the danger of it? She said, well, Kevin, what am I supposed to do? So she was ready to comply. Not on top of the cigarette. I thought that was interesting. But she could not breathe. The 80-year-old woman in my park the other day walking around with the mask on, she's probably going to end up having a heart attack. The people that are walking around the city, but you know what I call the mask? I call the mask of despair.
Yep.
It's the mask of despair. So when I look at contact tracing, when I look at social distancing, when I look at shelter in place, it is to strip us, consciously and unconsciously strip us of our humanity, of who we are. It is now distancing from my mother. I haven't seen my mother in 4 to 5 weeks, but that is not going to last because I will go in that building and see my mother. But see, I can do that because I'm not afraid. I can do that because I understand the issue. And our job is to do what? Our job is to educate our community. Our job is to empower our community. Because if we continue, forget about the mask of despair, forget about social distancing, forget about contact tracing, we will be locked in our homes forever. And guess who's locking us in? The people that we elected, the people that we supported, the people that we voted for. They have to go. The battle is there. The battle is there. The battle is right there. You don't contact trace me because I'm not going to finance you. How are you going to take my tax dollars and tell me what you're going to do to me?
Exactly.
Wait a minute. How are you going to use my police to police me when I pay for them? How are you going to tell me how my kids should be educated when I'm paying for that? We are the biggest damn fools I ever heard of. I've never seen anything like this before. I mean, so here's the deal.
Yo.
So here's the deal. So consciously, I'm saying to everybody, because I can't even deal with the unconscious yet. Guess what? We all know what's getting ready to happen. If you have any sense of history, if you have any deeper understanding of if you're an Irish person, if you're an Italian person, if you are a Black American, if you are an Indian, if you are anyone in this America, you know what oppression is because you had to come from somewhere to get here to be free. And we were brought here in shackles and we're still fighting for our constitutional rights. Our what? Our full citizenship. So the mask of despair, when I see it, when I feel it all over me every time I see them, because I want to scream. I want to say, what are you doing? You don't comply. You're giving your children to them. You're giving your hope to them. You're giving your life to them. And we should all know better. And then you have elected officials. I mean, I won't suggest that they're being intellectually dishonest, but they are corrupt because they are now trying to build a construct where you will be suppressed so their value will go up and they can still control everything they need to do to be elected. I had a governor of New Jersey tell us we're knuckleheads. I have a governor of New Jersey tell us, well, I'm the last voice in this game, and if you don't like it, leave New Jersey. I have legislators that have abandoned our people in the state of New Jersey, and they have abandoned us. the legislature in the state of New Jersey, I can say Mike Tester, I can say Holly, I can say all those people. That's great, right? I can do that. They know, we know the work that they're doing. Those are my heroes, right? But the rest of the legislature has abandoned us. They are more involved and more concerned about party politics. They're choosing people over politics. But let me tell you what they're really doing. They're ruining the lives of our children.
Yes.
Our children can't go out to play. Our children can't share germs. Our children can't. Think about what I'm saying to you. The country I live in now is organized to destroy the hope of children in this country. Yeah. And I see parents every day saying, what do I do? My son can't go out. I said, well, send your son outside.
You send his ass out. You send him outside anyway. Look, Cap. This is the thing that dawned on me. They wasn't actually the final policeman of me. I was the final policeman of me. I was the one that actually gave the full consent for me to stay inside or to wear the mask or not. I was the one policing me. And I was the one afraid of the will of the people so that I didn't want to be called out in some kind of way. Listen, I had a moment. Let me just say, I think I told Kevin, I didn't tell you. I had a moment last week, all right? I had a moment. So I got 2 properties. I was at my other property. And I go there, and I'm coming back to where I live currently, and they done taped up the whole playground. They done taped up the whole playground. It's a beautiful day. They taped up the whole playground. I had a moment. I went there, and I tore every last stitch of tape down. Every last stitch of tape, I tore it down. And I was like, you're going to have to deal with me personally. And that's all right. I come from a family of warriors. Let me tell you something about me. My grandfather was a Tuskegee Airman. He was one of the first black men to fly. That's in my blood. Fighting fascism is in my blood, literally. And when it comes home, my grandfather fought enemies foreign and domestic. And right now, the fascism done set its foot right in my hometown. And every chance I get a call out an elected official, I'll call him out because this is what needs to be done. This is insane. And call it a freaking moment, whatever. But I tore it down, and I almost went live with it. But I was like, let me gather myself because I was so angry. I don't like to go live when I'm that angry. But I tore it down. In the end, people, you're the final policeman of you, not them people outside of you. And when you give yourself permission, I'm sorry, but that's free people take risks. What it is, if you can go to the gun range, if you can go fire weapons, you can go outside. If you've ever freaking, you know what I'm saying? Like if you've ever driven a little fast on the freeway, if you've ever done anything, if you've ever ran with scissors in your hands, if you've ever driven without your seatbelt, you can go outside. At some point, you gave yourself permission to be free. And that's what I want people to remind themselves. Give permission to yourself to be free. And everybody else do that. And these people got no power over you. That's what
Well, Stephanie, I want to go over this for a second. This is what is contact tracing. This is in the bill, the 666 bill, the HR 6666 bill. All right, I gotta do this for the audience, right? Contact tracing is not a new concept. We already identified that, and it's used all over the world to combat infectious diseases such as Ebola and tuberculosis, right? Okay, we understand that. But then at the bottom here it says, this is how smooth they are about it. Does the COVID-19 Trace Act require testing? Right? No, the COVID-19 Trace is about providing testing to those who want and need it. That is a lie.
It is.
That's not true. They're going to try to test all of us, right? You have to understand. I want people to understand what they put in this bill to confuse the issue. Not everyone has the ability to visit or drive through testing sites, and many others are unable to leave their homes to get tested for any number of reasons. Now think about that. So that's the rationalization for them to come to your home, because you can't get out. So they're going to attack our elderly population, right? They're going to force them to take the test, right? They're going to force them to take the vaccines. Now, our grandmothers and mothers, because they might not be aware of it the way we are. So now they're saying, oh, it's not as bad as you think. It's not as bad as you think. The bill will allow the testers to come to you through mobile testing units door to door.
Bingo, bango, boom, boom.
But I always say this about bills, especially bills like this. I'm always looking at the intent, right? I know what the intent of this bill is. This bill is to do what? To control our bodies, to control our movements, and to do what? Put all of our information and give it to big data so they can track us every day of our lives.
Not
Period.
only that, but think about the fact that in New Jersey, they're also involving Child Protective Services, because in the instance that they deem parents unable to care for, and it's not just New Jersey, it's other states, but I've been following it because I'm in New Jersey. They're giving this clause where if they deem parents unable to care for their children, that those children will then be removed from the home. So there's the amount of control. Like, you could literally be sitting on your couch and somehow be, seen or around someone who has COVID-19 and have people show up on your doorstep. Because if someone tells me, hey, you need to go for testing, the Constitution says that I don't need to do anything that I don't want to do. And if I have COVID-19, I'm going to take some glutathione, I'm going to take some vitamin C, some vitamin D, and probiotics, and I'm going to be okay. So no, I'm not going for testing.
Well, Stephanie, to your point, the Department of Social Services in California, Sacramento, California. Now, this is frightening, guys. This is about control. Mm-hmm. This is why I say 30 days. And it's probably happening right in New Jersey, but I haven't explored it yet, but I will tomorrow after reading this. As a participant in state assistance benefits, including cash aid, CalFresh or Medi-Cal, and in accordance with the state of California emergency order number, right? 32120 EON 3520 and N2520. You are being informed that COVID-19 testing is declared mandatory.
Jeez, Lou.
For all members of your household receiving assistance. So now, think about that. They're saying that if you don't comply to us, you will not get your assistance. Mm-hmm. Right? So contact tracking, tracing, right? Now to your assistance, your assistance, the assistance that you need to take care of your kids and feed your kids that we all pay for through our taxes. Now, think about it. It says, you may receive a test free of charge any of the participating sites in Mercer County, California. Please refer to the attached pamphlet, blah, 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 blah. Failure to obtain a test by June 1st, 2020 will result in the temporary suspension of your benefits beginning July 1.
Wow. Wow, wow, and wow.
Now that is not a conspiracy. Contact tracing is not a conspiracy. Sheltering home is not a conspiracy. Mm-mm. All of their assumptions that they put out there to force us into these conditions are not a conspiracy theory. It's all real. Their science was wrong. The data was wrong. All of it was wrong. So now, here's Jamel Holly, the young guy that stood alone, right, to push back on the mandated bills that took our constitutional rights or were attempting to take our constitutional rights from us in the state of New Jersey, right? Yeah. Take our medical rights and take our religious freedoms away from us. What does he do? He calls for a public hearing, right, for contact tracing. He calls his legislators. He writes them a letter and says, listen, I need this to happen. He hasn't even been notified when they're going to do it yet. They see him as a nuisance because he's speaking up for us. Mm-hmm. They see him as a nuisance because he's standing on truth. They're saying he's anti something when actually he's pro everything we need. Yeah. We need a person that fights for our children, fights for us. So anytime we stand up, this is what has to happen. So he comes out and he says, listen, we need to have an investigation. We have so many unknowns. We need to do this. And guess what? None of the legislators thus far that I know, outside of one or two, has called him and say, we need to get this to happen. But guess what? 85%, and I'm saying 85% because I know after today, 5 of them are going to call him soon, right? None of them have come out and said anything that come from Black communities because they don't understand the seriousness of it because they're only there to stay in office and tell us what to do. Mm. Think about it. He came out last week and said, listen, we need a hearing. We want the public to come in and understand what this is. So we have a guy, Jamel Holly, that's been all over the country having this discussion, not just about vaccines, but our constitutional rights, our human rights. How do we bring people together? I want everybody to understand something. We don't have the luxury to be separate right now. Mm-mm. We have a lot of issues. I know in my community, we have a lot of issues, and we're trying to resolve them. The first thing we need to do is get rid of some of this leadership that we have, that we're propped up as leaders. We have to get rid of them. But we have some serious problems. You know, we understand police brutality. We understand being trapped in poverty. We understand all these public policies. Look, if you even look at the Jim Crow laws, they were all medical based. They were medicine based. They said, oh, those people, they're not clean. They're not this. We need to contain them. We need to push them out. So we understand that. But as Black Americans and as white Americans and Asian Americans, we all need to understand they're coming for all of us. And your limited amount of access that you might have as an individual is not going to mean anything. So we have to get more legislators like Jamel Holly all across the country.
And I think
identify them. I'm sorry.
That needs to be like something that the people. So for everybody that's on this call, something that we need to do immediately is we need to be calling if you're in New Jersey or anywhere across this great country, we need to be calling our local elected officials, your assembly people and your senators in your local districts, and requesting that a public hearing happen in regards to contact tracing so that we can ask. I mean, I have a list 6 pages long of questions that I have about what is contact tracing? Am I going to be required to do it? Am I going to be required to download an app on my phone? They're hiring an army of tracers. 22,000 people signs up in New Jersey in one day to be contact tracers. So, it's creating that same divide and conquer mentality when you think about Nazi Germany. And I know a lot of people don't like this comparison, but this whole thing of calling your neighbor.
Well, hey, can I say, listen, let's just do this though. Let's start there. I think all of these conversations are important because it gives us an historical reference. So here's another historical reference. We need to be asking all of our legislators in the state of across the country to start 911 commissions, right? To start looking at how this happened. We need to investigate this. I am almost certain if we have legislators across the country that will take that responsible position, that they need to form 911 commissions all throughout the country to investigate those executive orders, to investigate what was happening in those hospitals, what happened to our people. I mean, what kind of care did they receive? What did they fudge the numbers, which we all know that they've been very liberal with, right? All of the assumptions were wrong. So we need to call your legislators and push them to the edge and say, listen, we want a 911 investigative commission put together to investigate what has happened. So let me give you some tragedy that's happening in America right now in our universities. And I know we're running out of time, but I want to give people a little bit more perspective of this. U.S. universities creating social credit coronavirus surveillance systems. We have universities that we basically fund, right? They are now, right now, U.S. universities creating social credit coronavirus surveillance system. App will generate personal risk scores and determine the need for quarantine and decontamination. Now, that's what they're doing in China, but this is what they're preparing for in our universities. They're using our universities to come up with an app that's probably better than the apps that maybe Google and or Microsoft and or Apple might be doing, or maybe they're teaming up with these universities. There's 3 universities are responding to the coronavirus crisis by creating, irony of all ironies, a Chinese-style social credit surveillance system that will score people based on their exposure to the virus. So that means we all are going to be locked in because I'm exposed to a virus every day because my body carries how many viruses?
We are viruses.
How many viruses do I have?
Billions.
Think about this, but look at the colleges. According to the report, TechSite.la, researchers at the University of Southern California, Emory University, and the University of Texas Health Science Center are jointly working on the system after receiving federal grant funding. So remember what I said to you about the $100 billion and what they were going to use that to do, to pay everybody off throughout the country, pay all these anchoring institutions anchoring institutions around the country, pay all of the medical professionals that are in their pocket. And guess what? They're going to use that system against us. Now, these are universities. Now, we have a university in the city of Newark, Rutgers University, right? They're now, deploying contact tracers. So who's giving them the money? This is a state university. I'm saying we should be looking at these state universities. We should be talking about why are they doing this. We should be pulling back our dollars at the state and federal and local level so they won't be able to pursue this. And if they are pursuing it with their own, if they're doing it with their own patents or their own money, we need to find out where they got that money from too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, seriously.
That's what
I think we should
Theo, you're going to get an F, Theo. You're not going to be able to leave out of your house after this show.
I know.
Theo, you're done.
So y'all got to deal with me. You know what I'm saying?
You're done, Theo.
Like, I'm just be out.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say, Theo and Stephanie, is that something great happened today. We know we're being censored, and we all know why, because we're winning. I know everybody looked at Dr. Mikovits. I know everybody's looking at Dr. Patar. I know everybody's following Bobby Kenny. I know everybody's listen. The whole world is awakened to this. The whole world is awakened to this, and I got to tell you something. Brio TV, we're streaming live on Brio TV now. I call it Truth TV. I know, Theo, you're going to be doing your show. I know, Stephanie, you're going to be doing your show. But just think about it. You know, I believe God always balances things. I really do. So, you know, we got all of this crazy people out there playing God, but we got a place to go now. I call it the Truth Center. And Brio TV is the Truth Center. And I'm going to try to get as many people across this country to platform onto Brio TV. Because Brio TV will allow us to be able to speak like this, speak candidly, not censor us, right? And guess what? The partnership would be better if we could all look at alternatives to tell our story, because look what they're doing to Dr. Mikovits. Look what they're doing to all of the great people that are telling their story. Look at all of the virologists all around the world that's saying staying in the house is wrong and you need to be out engaging in herd immunity, right? And they don't want any of us to hear that. They don't want any of us to hear the truth. So Brio TV, it was a blessing for all of us to be able to do that.
I'll just say this, yo, Kev. Let me piggyback on that, because this is something that I have access to. Thank you for even introducing me to Brio TV. Number one, I can't wait to work with them some more. I'll be writing an article similarly like I wrote before in the Colorado Sun. Here's what happened in Colorado. In a place called Castle Rock, a restaurant decided that they was just going to open for Mother's Day. Maybe y'all seen this video. It's called CNC something or other. I have forgotten what their full name is. But people was just in there like old times. Just there, just no masks, no gloves, eating, enjoying life. You see what I'm saying? And the governor of Colorado literally revoked their license to even do business. Literally just like shut them down. That's a dictator move, bro. That's a dictator move. And it's because of the state of emergency that they've allowed that to happen. And I said to myself, you do this one day and somebody else does it to a black community, a brown community. See, I think it was interesting because these folks in Castle Rock are considered pretty affluent. People don't think that they need to be stood up for. I'm going to stand up for them. And the reason why I'm going to stand up for them is because it's them that day and me the next day. Everything that crosses demographics is based on I stand up for the people, because Dr. Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Absolutely.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. King talked about the inexplicable web of mutuality that we are all intertwined in. We linked. We are all connected in this one right now, whether we want to believe it or not. And if he can suspend the Constitution there, he's going to suspend it again and again and again. And by the time I need somebody to have my back, and nobody's going to be around, I can't allow that to happen. So I'm about to write an article directed towards him and say, listen, man, we have a Constitution for a reason. You just can't pick willy-nilly and fire off your magical bullets to stop people from engaging in commerce just because you think that they are violating some kind of health dictum that we all should be following, especially if we haven't had at least an antibody test in Colorado to see how many people likely have had the disease. Can we at least get that? At least New York got that. That ain't contact tracing necessarily. It's just about people who we know the science says that way more people got it. Therefore, you shape policy around that to say, okay, maybe, and this is not the same thing as like you got tested, you have the disease. This is different than when they test you when you presently have the disease and then they take you out of your home. See what I'm saying? Because by the time you've already been in contact with, you actually have immunity, so they can't touch you. See what I'm saying? We don't even have a scale of that in Colorado. How do you know that everybody in that restaurant already was immune to COVID-19? How you know that? And they talked about you're endangering the children. I think what endangers the children is not being in school, not being able to go to the Boys and Girls Club and have a mandatory reporter be able to look after the children to see if they're being molested and abused.
Can you talk about that, Theo? Because you said that before we came on. You talked about the depths of despair. So let's let that be one of the things that we leave them, because people are asking about action items. So I definitely want to get them some action items, but that's a really important point.
This is what you got to look at. So I believe it was CBS News or CNN posted an article that said, now look, we're around 80,000 official deaths in this country. And I say official loosely, deaths in this country from coronavirus. But they are expecting 75,000 more deaths of despair. Deaths of despair always accompany economic downturn. You know, there's the legends of the 1929 crash when rich men were jumping out of windows. Well, the suicides affect poor people too. It happened in 2009 when we had a downturn, but this is something much larger. They're expecting 75,000 people to die of either suicides or overdoses or domestic partner violence or child abuse combined because of shelter in place. Because we can't get away from folks. There is no money coming in. There's no income. And a lot of times people's jobs were tied to their sense of purpose. So if you don't allow them to have that, and there's another X factor that's going on in my community. If you don't open up the economy, there's a bunch of young men who are gang affiliated that this group called the Struggle of Love Foundation is trying to put to good use. If there's no job opportunities for these guys, we're looking at a real hot summer on the block. We're not trying to have that. So these deaths of despair are tied to why now you have leverage to say, open up the economy for these people's lives' sake. See what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I might be one of these lives. So in everybody who likes to shame you for wanting to open up the economy, everybody who likes to say, well, you're not protecting human beings. Another more damning study came out. United Nations said that they are looking at 130 million people teetering on the brink of starvation by the end of the year because we shut down the economy and broke the supply chain to needy countries who are already suffering.
Absolutely.
Then they expect an extra 300,000 people per day to die. After that, you heard me right. I had to check 300,000 people per day to die for the next 3 months after that into 2021. Because they've literally been starved out of opportunities to eat. And this all comes from our collaboration, our cooperation for shelter in place, because literally they couldn't have removed your job if you know what I'm saying? Like, we all complied because we were afraid. So these are the lives on the other side of it that you can leverage and say, save these people. The opportunity to keep these people alive. And that's what I want people to do. I'll be writing an open letter to the governor if the editor will have me. You know what I'm saying? But you can't just pick and choose who you kick out of business just because you disagree with them politically, especially when we don't know who has and has not been affected yet.
And I think that that's the big thing. You know, my closing thing to everybody before we get into action items is it takes courage. It takes courage to critically think, to ask questions, to stand out in the herd when everybody's believing the things that they're supposed to believe and sheltering in place and being good little citizens. And that little nagging voice inside of you says something doesn't feel right. It is a brave thing to look at it and say, you know what? The solution is actually hurting people more than the problem. And at that point, what can we do to protect public health, but to also protect freedom, constitutional rights, and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all, which is what this country was founded on? And when we move so far away from those morals and those things, to me, that's scarier than any virus. There's always going to be a virus. There's always going to be something to fear. And the truth is that the more fear they can create, the more they can very systematically begin to control every aspect of our lives. And right now, you may feel like you want to stay inside. And I've said it once and I'll say it again. Freedom looks like being able to shelter in place. If that's what you feel you need to do, go right ahead. But freedom for other people looks like opening their businesses, having their kids go back to school without masks, without little boxes to play in and social distancing. This new normal that we're talking about of tracking, tracing, not being able to hug people or even see people's expression because everyone's hidden behind this oppressive mask is not a reality that I want my son to grow up in. Plain and simple. Kevin, do you have any closing remarks that you want to say before we go to action items?
Yes, I have one thing.
Okay.
You know, I got to say this. In the next, like I said, the next 30 days, if we don't act, they will act, and it'll be all over.
Mm.
You know, take off your mask of despair. You know, take a deep breath. Go out and get some sun. Go hug your family, and say, guess what, guys? We have to fight. We have to fight for all the things that we know are true. And if we could do that, I think we can turn this thing around. And I just hope and pray that people are listening. I hope and pray that people are talking to each other. I hope and pray that people are trying to get as much information as they possibly could. But that mask of despair, if we continue to keep wearing that mask of despair, you know, I got to tell you, I think things are going to get worse. I think your businesses will never open. I think your children will be traumatized. I think our families will be further damaged. I think in certain communities we'll be completely wiped out. And if we don't all work together, I don't care what your race is or your gender is. I don't care if one person might be a little off as opposed to the other. But guess what? If we don't all work together, you know where we're going to be? Someone said this today and it knocked me off my feet. We're going to be on those boxcars.
Mm.
That's where we're going to be. And I just hope and pray that people understand that. And I hope and pray that we take a deep breath and we start to fight back tomorrow. Not today, but tomorrow. Because after tomorrow, if we don't do it, there's nothing left.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And Theo, is there anything else that you want to close out with before I give some action items? Any other closing thoughts?
I will say that they're going to talk about this time in history 100 years from now. And they're going to wonder where you stood. I got a baby daughter. You know, she's about to be 11 weeks old. And I got a legacy. And my legacy says that when times were difficult, when the whole world went insane, I maintained my sanity no matter how much pressure was on me to go crazy with everybody else. And you need to have that. Courage is a muscle. You have to flex it consistently, because if you don't, you won't have it when you need it. And I tell this to kids, you know, I lecture at universities all the time. A lot of kids, they stuck in their phone like they're digital natives. They are screen addicts. And I say to them, the problem with you is you let this screen get between you and the world. You don't know how to take action. Your action button is broken. This is going to be scary. This is going to be difficult. When you're sitting up here against the will of not just corporations, but the will of those who you are close to, it feels weird. It feels like maybe you're all alone right now. If your integrity points you north, you keep going north, no matter what the storm says. You keep going north. And this is what I'm saying. Exercise the courage muscle right now. History is depending on you to do the right thing. And that's where I'm going to leave it.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Exercise the courage muscle. I like that.
I love that. I love that. So for all of you watching, we want to first give you immense gratitude for tuning in, for staying with us, for listening to everything that we're saying. And one of the things that I've said through the Battle of Trenton, through all of it, is that each and every single person listening, each of the actions that you take or don't take will either make a difference or they won't. There is not going to be one hero of this movement. There's not going to be one person that changes the tide or the course of history. Anything that's worth anything in history, any changes that have been made, any civil rights movement, it was a grassroots group of people who were willing and brave enough to stand up for what they believe in a relentless way over and over again until change was made. So for those of you that are living in this victim mentality of there's nothing I can do, I want you to just check yourself before you wreck yourself, because the truth of the matter is that now is the time. Not 10 days, not 20 days, not 2 months. Now is the time to speak up, to rise up, to be brave, to be bold, and to be the change that you wish to see in the world. And if you are not on board with the new normal that we just described in grave detail of tracing, tracking, masking, oppression, people coming into your homes, removing people from your homes, if this is not what you want to see happen in America, the lands of the free, the greatest country in the world, then it is your time to start doing some stuff. So I'm going to give you some action items because everyone wants to know what they can do. The first thing that you need to do right now is tomorrow. You need to get on the phone and start contacting your district legislators, whatever part of the country you're in. If you're in New Jersey, you can go on the NJ Ledge website and look at the area that you're in by entering your zip code. If you have any questions about it, you can, of course, contact me and I will help to guide you to find your legislators. In the state of New Jersey, you have 2 assembly people and 1 senator in your district. You need to contact those folks immediately and to request that we have a public hearing with comments to talk about contact tracing immediately, not in a month, immediately. It needs to be something that happens before any executive orders are sent forward. That's the first thing that we're going to do. The second thing that you want to do is I want you to sign up. The link is here, so I'll give you a moment to write it down. I can also pop it into the comments. This is my Freedom Warriors mailing list. We all know that right now Facebook is not our friend. So being able to share information regarding gatherings and rallies has become next to impossible on this platform. So this website will give you access to my mailing list, which will help you to know anything that's coming up in our local areas, any relevant information, anything on bills, anything that affects your freedom, medical, religious, or otherwise here in this great state. You will get information. So please go on, sign up for that website. And the next thing that I want to talk about is Twitter. So Twitter is something where you have a direct access to people, legislators, anybody out there that you want to speak to regarding what is happening. We get to design the narrative with our voice, with our words, with the truth that we know is out there, and help to combat a lot of the misinformation that's going on. TimeToSwarm.com is a website that you can sign into. My friend Susan Sweeten, she sends out every day the top trending hashtags that are going on related to our movement. And this is not just something that is done by the seat of our pants. There is a lot of work that goes on back-end systems to be able to figure out what that looks like. So there's a lot of research behind this. So we save all the work for you and we just tell you to go out there and to get behind these tweets. So sign up for this so you can become part of the swarm, because together we're making a huge difference on Twitter and we're able to start dispelling some of the information that is not correct out there and that is hurting our freedom. So that's step 2. You're going to go to timetoswarm.com, sign up, get your email, become part of the swarm. And the last thing that I want you to do is I want you to get to briotv.com. Brio TV is the platform that we're all on right now. And this platform gives us the ability to tell the truth, to share information that is real, without censorship, without shadow banning, without worrying about things being taken off the internet. Plandemic is still there, and we know that that documentary has been taken down on multiple platforms. So the fact that it's still there is amazing. Right now, they have a free membership. You can sign up for Brio TV, go on, experience the platform. There are all types of shows just like this show that is going to be popping up. Kevin, Theo, and I will all have our own separate shows coming soon. Right now, Kevin and I are partnering together to tackle some of these issues, and we're super excited to be bringing this information to you. So we'll definitely be back again here and on Brio TV with more guests. We'll definitely have Theo back soon to talk about more issues on contact tracing and what the new normal looks like coming out of COVID-19. So those are the 3 items that I want you to take to right now. Get on the phone tomorrow and start to ask some questions. You'll see tomorrow that I'll be posting a link for you to sign up the top 10 questions that you can have discussions with your legislators about when it comes to contact tracing. I think it's really important to have these discussions. So get into action, get off of your couch, turn off the news, wash your hands, take your supplements, take care of your body, and let's get out there and take our country back before it is too late.
Well, I just want to say one thing, Stephanie, you were great as usual.
Oh, thank you.
This is my second time doing a show with you. And Theo, what can I say? Phenomenal. I'm the old guy. I'm just sitting here. I'm just
not calling yourself the old guy.
Guys.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
But I got to tell you something. I got to tell you, I'm very proud of both of you. I'm very excited. I think having you do your own shows and lending your voice to what's happening in this country is so, so important. And I hope other young people look at you as a beacon of hope and an example. I really do. That's why I'm here. I'm having this show because I care, and I care about my grandchildren, and I care about your children. I care about your families. And we need to all stay linked together because I think we all care about those things. So thank you very much for your time. Stephanie, you were a great co-host as usual. I didn't do anything. You did everything.
You did a lot.
Theo,
Stop it now.
Theo, I can't wait to get back to Colorado.
Yo,
That's one of my favorite states. I'm going to get there as soon as possible. I don't know where they're going to send me, but I know I'm getting back there first.
that's
I
what's
might
up.
have to come to Colorado. Like, seriously.
You got to. Great super people there. I mean, super people in Virginia. I got to tell you, super people in Virginia fighting every day. You got Marsha Rose down here fighting every day. I'm excited about that. I mean, I'm very excited about how I met her and what she taught me when I was in Virginia. So I'm excited.
This has been amazing. I'm so thankful to both of you for being here, for being a voice. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you
very much. I appreciate you having
Until
me.
next time, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining and for staying with us. We'll see you back here soon. Be brave, be the change, get to work, get in action now, today. Let's make a difference. Love you all. Thanks for coming on.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.